Good evening and welcome to the special call meeting for the College Park Business and Industrial Development Authority. Today is June 22nd, and we are beginning this meeting at approximately 6:08. Okay, so as we at this time would like to have everyone, we'll do the roll call. So we'll begin with our BIDA board members, and then we will, any staff that we have and council persons as well. I'm Jamel McKenzie. Oh, did you want to say? Okay, I'm Jamel McKenzie, the chairman of BIDA. Mayor?
I'm Bianca Motley-Broom, the mayor, and we have 3 council members present, although this is not a meeting of the council, and no council decisions will be made, and there will be no council votes had.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. We are still doing our roll call.
Eleanor, board member.
All right.
Mayor Pro Tem Derek Taylor.
Anita Brown-Cadis.
Leslie Zen, BIDA secretary.
Hello, I am Mercedes Miller, the interim city manager for the great city of College Park.
I'm Tasha Hall Garrison, economic development program manager. I'm in for Artie Jones.
Althea Floyd Bradley, director of finance and accounting, city of College Park.
Ed Wall, financial advisor for College Park and College Park BIDA.
Dan Lee, the attorney for BIDA.
Okay, and we had someone else aside from Dan Lee.
I'm sorry, Sabrisa Beasley, economic development assistant.
All right, I believe we still have some more persons. Yes.
And Allen, Councilman, Ward 3.
Ambrose Clay, Councilman, Ward 1.
Okay, well, welcome again, everyone, to the meeting. The next item on our agenda is additions, deletions, amendments, or changes to the agenda. I do have one addition, which is a statement that I'm going to read at the beginning of this meeting. Do we have any other additions or changes to this agenda for today?
Well, I don't think the vice chair is here yet, right?
He's logging in now.
Okay.
Yes, he's just coming in.
Oh, okay. Hi, Demetrius. We just had another one of our members join. Demetrius, our vice chair. Okay, was there another addition to the, my addition would just be put before we get into new business today. Tasha?
Yes, I do have an announcement, but it's just an announcement. It could be added for new business if you like, or I could just announce. What would you prefer, Madam Chair?
I will add it on new business. And why don't we do that for item B under new business?
Sure.
Okay, your announcement.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, could I ask, I didn't get to see the notice for the special call meeting. Did it have an agenda or did it specify what topic would be discussed?
Yes, it does.
I would not expand the agenda if the public notice did not have that included in it.
So for the announcement?
I mean, if Tasha wants to tell the group some news, I get that, but if I would not expand the agenda.
Okay, so we'll just have the announcement in terms of, okay. So
I mean, we can talk about chit chat news amongst us and anybody listening, but the law is clear about the expansion of the agenda from the notice given to the public for the special call meeting, and taking a formal vote to do it. It's nomenclature, I get it, but I would not take a vote to expand the agenda. Tasha wants to tell us.
And what I'm saying is just my opening remarks. So
I understand.
Okay.
I wouldn't take a formal action of expanding the agenda.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Lee. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're going to move forward, and simply I'd like to begin the meeting this evening with just saying that it is the chairman's opinion that there needs to be a firm clarification as to the role that BIDA serves in relation to the city of College Park. I often hear it said that BIDA is merely a conduit by which the city uses to contract issuance of bonds, the acquisition of property, and so forth. But in all actuality, BIDA serves a greater role than just being a transaction funnel. Our authority was established years ago so that every time the city had a matter such as what is before us this evening, it would not have to rely on a vote from the citizenship of College Park. Had this authority not existed, cases such as what we are dealing with today would have to be taken up in a special city vote, which would allow the residents of the city to participate. And in many cases, it would be even more challenging for us to be able to conduct certain business. And this is why this board consists of citizens as well as 2 elected officials. My point is that had the city been in a position where they had to rely on a vote from the citizens on this matter, this restructuring would have had to have been published and possibly accompanied by a town hall meeting, allowing residents to give input, probe, request details, transparency, and all the core values upon which this city is said to operate. And as the chairman of BIDA, I have no issue with the questions or the concerns or the requests that have been made by my board members, because as citizens and trustees, they have the right to know and to feel completely comfortable and confident regarding the decisions they are making that will affect our entire city. However, my issue is with how a matter as serious as this was brought before our board. We should have been informed as early as last year in regards to the city considering to restructure our bonds or our loans, since this transaction does involve the cooperation of BIDA. This should have been shared. This is my opinion. This should have been shared at one of our regular session meetings as a non-action item. We have been rushed into a process that we had no prior knowledge of, and we've been made to feel as if we must make a decision, Johnny on the spot, and that decision that we make can result in the survival or the decline of our city. This weighty responsibility and obligation being placed upon us is neither fair nor warranted, because it should have been handled differently and with more care. Which brings me to the restructuring. There have been rhetorical questions, and I don't want to answer, I'm just making a statement, regarding the cost associated with the issuance of the loan that I would simply like to pose. One of them is, since our city was so greatly affected by the COVID pandemic, at the time when the consideration of restructuring began, one of the questions has been, what measures were taken, if any, on behalf of the city to get our professional service providers involved in this transaction on the onset? Meaning, have there been anything that the city did to renegotiate their fees in order to lower the cost of the issuance of the loan? Also, another question that's come up is, what future plans exist for PPP funding or government assistance as we recover from the ongoing effects of COVID, so we don't find ourselves in so much of a crisis? In closing, the main concerns this evening is that we carefully consider the importance of the restructuring issue before us. That's one. And that immediately we establish a system of improved communication between the city and the authority, so that when matters such as this arise in the future, the authority is not caught off guard and we are given ample time to consider the request that's at hand. As far as the rate the service professionals are being paid for the issuance of this restructuring, I do not expect anyone to be compensated less than what they were originally contracted, especially since the bulk of the work in achieving this feat has already been done. However, I would like to ask our service professionals who are present at this meeting, and we can do this as we get into this, if you would be open to renegotiating your fees on a case-by-case basis in the future, if we find ourselves still diligently striving to overcome the economic impact of COVID-19. And so at this time, we are going to move on to our agenda item, which is the debt restructuring. And we want to open up for any questions that anybody may have or any comments. I would like to hear from our elected officials, since this was something that was brought before you, before it was brought before BIDA. I would be interested to hear from Councilman Clay, who is attending today, even though I know he's not voting, our councilman, just to kind of see, so we can hear from you as the by the board, how this decision was made. So Councilman Clay, Councilman Allen, Councilman Taylor, and Mayor Motley Brown.
Madam Chair, I also have as a part of this item, a presentation,
Okay.
PowerPoint presentation. Would you like me to bring that up while we discuss?
Yeah, we can bring the power. And then, like I said, I think it would be very beneficial for us to hear, from our city officials.
Okay, let me
elected officials. Okay, so Tasha, you go ahead with this, and then we can continue to discuss.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Ed, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just let me know once you're ready.
Okay, I'm good to go. Go to the second page, please, Tasha. I wanted to start off, it'll be a real quick presentation, but to set out for you to start off, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And then what is it we propose to do to solve the problem? And then what does the solution mean as far as money to the city? And I've talked to a lot of you, we've gone back and forth, and so I'm going to go pretty quick, but if I go too quick, y'all slow me down at each slide. The hotel motel tax fund, the city, Coca-Cola has just one great big old fund, but city governments have different funds. And so there's a general fund for police and fire. There's a hotel motel tax fund, a car rental tax fund, a water and sewer fund, electric fund. Each one operates on its own. And I want to start off with the hotel motel tax fund. If y'all could look at 2019, the occupancy tax was $11,833,000. The actual in 2020 was $8,480,000. The budget for 21 was $5,007,000. Go all the way over to the right, you see the projected end for 2021 is $4,609,000. So the hotel motel tax has gone from nearly 12 million to 4.6 million. If I could go to the next page. This is the car rental tax fund. If you look actual 2019, this was pre-COVID, it was 7,200,000. The actual 2020 was 4,600,000. And then the budgeted for 21, we knew we probably wouldn't get anything. We go all the way over to the right, and of the 3,200,000 that we're guaranteed each year, you have to go 2 years in a row before Atlanta strokes us a check. And so we received about 180,000 in December of last year, which is part of our June 30, 21 fiscal year. And then we've got 400,000 a year that we get contractually for 10 years from the city of Atlanta. So you can see the car rental tax has dropped by about $4.5 million. Next slide, please, Tasha.
May I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're anticipating zero car rental tax for the year 2021?
Yes, ma'am. And remember that's fiscal year June 30, 2021.
So from June 30th, 2020 to June 30th, 2021, you expect no tax income, or you haven't gotten any?
Correct. Well, we got 180,000 in December.
May I interject?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I think the structure of that agreement that the city of Atlanta gets the first 8.8, and then we take the second 3.2 million. So what happened in calendar year 2020 was that, well, the car rental year runs December 1st to November 30th. So from December 1st, 2019 through November 30th, 2020, instead of getting that $3.2 million, because the city of Atlanta has to take the first 8.8, there was only there was only $180,000 on top of that. So that's why you see that number there. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay. Now, let me ask one other thing. Are there things like PPP? Is there PPP money for things like this?
So there's the local government, cities and counties and school boards got their own share of the Atlanta recovery money. We call it Biden bucks. The city of College Park expects to get about 5.6 million. It'll come in two tranches, half of it almost any day now, and the other half a year from now. And there are four broad categories that the Department of Treasury lets you spend that money on, and one is to replace revenues. We have budgeted to put all of that money in the city's accounts to replace the revenues that we've lost.
May I add something else? In regard to the timing on the arena was such that there are venues across the country that were able to take advantage of some of the funding that was available from the federal government. Unfortunately, it was based upon how many tickets you'd sold and what you'd done prior to COVID. And due to the timing of the opening of the arena, we simply didn't have the data to support that.
Right. It's too late in 2019.
So here I apologize, Ms. Zen, are you ready for me to go into the arena? You got a few more questions?
No, go ahead. Thanks.
So the arena, if everybody would look pre-COVID in 2019, and you can blow it up on your screen, it was 725,000 was the interest income. We hadn't actually opened yet. In 2020, actual 2020, we were open for a little while. We had 910,000 revenue. The 2021 budget was 3,194,000. We're expecting at the end of the June 30th, 10 days from now, we'll have about 578,000 revenues. You look down at the bottom, you can see what the expenses are budgeted to be. And so we got about a $4.2 million loss in the arena fund that includes debt service. The debt service is always meant to be made from the car rental tax. The car rental tax fund had cash balances in it. So we'll use the car rental tax fund. You'll see down there is 2,869,000 as a transfer in. I'm in the last column in the projected 21, almost toward the bottom. From the general fund, from the car rental tax fund is 2,869,000. And then right above it, in order to balance it, we're going to transfer about 1.5 million from the general fund. Turn to the next page. The Redevelopment Authority Fund is how the auditors call BIDA fund. If you'll look pre-COVID in 2019, the revenues were $1,775,000. These main revenues are pilot payments that we received, land rental payments on the ground lease for some of the land up underneath some of the buildings around the gateway. And the actual for 2020 was $2,000,009. The budget for 21 was $3,001,000. We're projecting, because we were rough and made all those folks pay the pilot payments, the APM fees, the land rental payments. They all wanted a holiday on it, but mayor and council insisted that we had troubles as well, and they all paid it. And so we expect to have right on budget $3,100,000. You look at the expenses. Artie has done a phenomenal job holding expenses. You can see the budget is $1,550,000, the third column. The actual in 2020 was $2,001,000. This year we expect the BIDA fund to only spend $1,017,000. So it'll be income of $2,001,000. One of the things that we didn't get this year is the next group of figures under the budget for 21 was land sales at $3,269,000. And it looks like we're only going to get about 500 some odd thousand of land sales. And you all know we have some big contracts for land over at 6 West, but we just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. We do expect to pull it and get that money in FY22. We go all the way down to the interest and fiscal charges on the debt is $6,841,000. And so after you take the income from all the various pilot payments and the fees that we get, we have 5.1 million that has to be made up from a transfer in. And if you go to the bottom of that page, you can see all the various funds from which we're getting money to make those payments. And We used to just make a big transfer from the hotel motel tax fund, but we're not able to do that this year because we don't have the money to do it. So we've taken some from the TAD fund, from the electric fund, from the special tax district, the GICC special tax district, and then the general fund's making up the difference there. As you can see, 2 million and 1,000, and car rental tax, $1.4 million. Turn to the next page, Tyson. So this is the last big fund, the general fund. And I wanted you to just look at the 21 projected down at the bottom. We're projecting after transfers out to these other funds, and you can see there's a transfer out of 6,168,000. We've never had to do that before, but it's because so many of the COVID revenues have declined. The general fund will have a net loss we're projecting of $4.5 million. So it'll draw the general fund balance down from 21 million to 16 million. But turn to the next page, if you would, please, Tasha. I'm on the last column, 2021. We have to adjust the general fund balance for what's actual cash. And so while the auditors accrue things that the other funds owe the general fund, if the other funds don't have the money to pay it, it's a paper number and it's not real cash. So the convention center fund, GICC, owes the general fund $1.8 million. So I have to deduct that from the fund balance. The electric fund owes it $6,183,000. The sanitation fund owes it $152,000. And so the real cash in the general fund is projected to be at $8 million. If you look just back up at 2020, we ended the previous year at $12 million. And so we don't have enough money to pay all of our debt without using our savings. And so it was this problem that drove us to try to figure out, was there a solution that might help alleviate some of the pain as we go into FY22. Next page, Tasha. So the total debt service for all entities in the city, water, sewer, electric, sanitation, stormwater utility, BIDA, convention center, FAA, all of the debt all together, the principal here is 159 million. The interest is 43 million till maturity. And so the total payback's 203 million over the next, 16 years. If you look at the top, the annual payment is $16 million for several years, then 15 million, then it's 9 million. The thought behind this restructuring that's before y'all is that we take some of the principal here in 21, see it's 11,611,000, principal in 22, 11,940,000, the principal in 23, 12,000,200. We take that and reduce it as close to zero as we can get it, and take that principal and have it mature all the way out here to 2038. And so it's a restructuring of this debt, and it does cost us money because instead of paying all this stuff off in the next 3 years, we're going to be paying it off over 15 years. But what it does is it takes that $16 million figure and lowers it. And in 22, it'll lower it by 10 million. In 23 by 8 million, and 24 by 7 million. And this cash flow savings will allow us not to eat any further into our general fund balance and give time for COVID to go away and our revenues to come back. And so the 22 budget has been designed around this. One of the reasons, Madam Chair, that I didn't bring this to y'all before now, I was afraid, given the financial condition of the city, I wouldn't get anybody to buy the debt. And so I didn't want to bring something to y'all that I didn't think I'd be able to get done. In hindsight, that was a mistake, and I wish I had made that decision. But that wasn't anybody's fault but mine. If I could, the next page, please. This is a letter from Truist Bank giving us the terms of the restructuring. If you could turn to the next page, Tasha. The main issue of the terms is up at the top right. There's one issue that's a tax exempt issue at 37,310,000. There's a second issue for taxable, 9,330,000. You can see how they're maturing. The next page, Tasha. On the left-hand side, number one, the tax exempt fixed rate for the 15-year maturity is 2.46. The taxable fixed rate for the 10-year maturity is 2.98. There's a rate lock here to August the 6th. And then there's a provision in here, if I can find it, where we can prepay it after 5 years with no prepayment penalty. The writing's so small, I can't find it. Next page, please, Tasha. Next page again. This was the memo that was in y'all's package. It went out to you last Thursday. And the main thing I just want you to focus on is that chart on the right-hand side. The first column is the years. The second column is that debt service schedule that you saw before at 16 million and 15 million. The next column over is what the new debt payments would be annually after the restructuring. The 1,705,000 is principal payments that Althea made in March. And we're just because of the timing of getting the commitment from SunTrust, we started last November. We agreed that we would include that into this bond issue and pay it back to the city general fund. So you can see the savings for 22 is 10 million, then 8 million, then 7 million, 2 million, 1 million, 1 million. I'm on the last column, please, Tasha. And then starting in 28, where our debt service had fallen to 9 million, we're now having pretty level debt service at 13 million. So I have $4 million a year in debt service that I didn't used to have to pay. And so the total of that is 9 million over the 15-year life of the issue. The net present value of that is $1,300,000. So this debt restructuring cost us over the long run if we let it mature as it's set. If, however, in 2026, 5 years from now, we start paying the debt off early, all of that cost wouldn't occur, and you could save any of the cost that had occurred by doing this. And you would do that probably from the sale of property in 6 West if you sold enough of it. That's the end of my presentation, Tasha.
Thank you, Ed. So at this time, I know we want to have discussion, but I also would like to hear, because our city council has been discussing this for quite some time now, and just would like to hear from Councilman Clay, Allen, Taylor, and our mayor, your recommendations, or why you came to the decision that you did.
You want me to start?
Yes, please. We'll Clay, and then we'll say Allen and Taylor, and we'll end with our mayor.
Okay, well, when I heard of the special call meeting, I knew we were going to have something going forward because we had approved it at the council meeting on the 7th to go forward with this. And I was a little surprised that the call for the meeting was coming so short in advance of the actual time. And I sent an email to Jamel because she had just gotten into town, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but let me just read the first paragraph because this is pretty much my position on the whole situation. I said, I looked over this thoroughly before Mayor and Council unanimously approved it. I made the motion to approve it. On page 125 of the June 7, 2021 packet, you will find the key statement by Ed Wall. And I quote, on a net present value basis, the value of the future cash flows in today's dollars, the cost to refinancing and restructuring the refunded bonds is $1,369,472, inclusive of the cost of issuing the new bonds. And then I went on to say, i.e., or therefore, for a net present value of about 1.4 million, we can eliminate 3 years of debt service, about 26 million. I was a little high on that. I guess it's about 25 plus million. Cash flow pressure on the budget. Now, in subsequent communications that I've seen going back and forth, and Ed came up with a response to Leslie on a question she had asked. And that was, well, what would be the impact if we didn't do this? Well, the impact would be a significant increase in property taxes. We have diligently cut out a lot of things in the budget. I personally don't think we can cut anything of significance out of the budget going forward. So we're already running staff at shortages that have impacted service in the city. And we need to do something, and that something will come up for approval in the August timeframe. That's when we approve the amount of money that are going to be in the taxes and increase our millage rate, where we set the millage rate. Now, it's been our intent not to increase taxes. I think Ed did an analysis, and I guess I did print that out. I think he figured that to generate $1 million, keep in mind that we are generating $25 million over the next 3 years, to generate $1 million of reduction, or to replace what would be lost if we did that, that you would have to raise the millage rate by about 1 mil, being equal to $1 million, as I got it. So we were talking about the savings in 1 year, he said, is equivalent to about 10 mils. So we're at 12.59 or something like that mil. So if we were to try to achieve the same savings by increasing taxes on everybody in the city on their property taxes, we would be changing a 12.5 something millage rate to a 22.5 something millage rate just to achieve that. I don't want to do that. Obviously, we can't do that, right? I mean, we can't do that to our citizens. So maybe you don't increase so much. Well, if you don't increase it so much, that means we're going to draw down our reserve more. And our reserve is getting a lot lower than I would like to see it be. Now, as far as SunTrust goes, or Truist as it's now called, Truist is in a sense a partner with the city. We have about $32.5 million, I think, in accounts with Truist at this time. So they benefit from having that money in their accounts. They do things in return for us. For example, they support a lockbox that we can send in our utility bills to, and they process them. And that makes things a lot more efficient. So we have a working relationship with Truist. If there is any financial organization that is going to want to help us and want to work with us, that's the one I would look to first. And in the past, normally we've gone out to the financial market and done an RFP and gotten quotes. But we're in a whole different situation right now. And it's the full faith and credit of the city. And that means the taxpayers that are going to have to live up to the debt service. So we need all the help we can get. That's why we went to Truist, because they're a good partner. And I think that's why Ed felt that if we could get partnership with them, that it would make us successful, and ultimately it'll make them successful because we'll be putting more money into the bank at Truist. So I went on to say in my email that I thought a couple of days notice was too short. And unfortunately, I didn't see Jamel's. I'm up late at night, but I was working other problems. I didn't see the email. And I responded the next morning, and already decisions had been made. But my suggestion was have the special called meeting on last Friday, but have it more of a work session. And unless the BIDA board felt very comfortable, because I wouldn't have felt comfortable if you dumped all this data on me, I read everything. So I would have been totally paranoid and I would not have felt comfortable with it. And so my comment was, look, if the board isn't comfortable with it at that Friday meeting, then hold another special called meeting the next week at which you would take the vote. Well, my response got to Jamel too late, but what you ended up doing was scheduling a work session, and now we have a special called meeting. So I understand that by the board, I didn't sit in on any of the Monday morning meetings when you guys were briefed, but I hope that you have a good understanding. It's a very complex issue. We're talking about huge amounts of money, but we're really talking about the future of the city. We're at a critical point right now.
True.
And if I am very optimistic, which is unusual for me, but I see things coming back a lot faster than I had anticipated. So I feel good that we will be able to cover all this. We just need a little breathing room for a couple or 3 years. And that's why, to me, I would use the term, it's a little coarse, a no-brainer, but I can understand it isn't a no-brainer if you haven't been spending 3 or 4 months looking at this as I have and some of us have. So I understand the consternation, but guys, we really need to do this. And the alternatives aren't going to be good if we are not able to do it. What I worry about is I don't want this deal to go away. You know, interest rates, we're looking at potential inflation. Interest rates will go up. This deal on the table right now, which Ed has worked very hard to achieve, that deal could go away. And we've got a limited time. I thought it was the 25th, and maybe it's the 6th of August, but of July. But in any event, we need to get this done if we're going to do it. If we're not going to do it, well, then we'll have to go back and go to the taxpayers and figure out what we're doing. But I don't think it's going to be pretty. So I'm sorry for taking so long, but I feel very passionate about this thing, and I just don't see any other way. And I give Ed a tremendous amount of credit for coming up with this approach, this strategy that I hadn't thought about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We're gonna, Ed, did you want to respond? I know we're going to hear from our councilman, but was there something you were trying to say, Ed, before we went to Councilman Allen?
It is. So Whit Maloney, who works with me, came up with it. I just didn't want to take credit for something somebody else did.
Okay.
Whit did a good job.
Whit. Councilman Allen, would you share your perspective?
Yeah, Councilman Clay always does a great job of explaining things and getting things where normal people like me can understand them. But as the council and the mayor and Mercedes and people that have been dealing with the city know what we've been going through. We have cut staff, we've laid off people, we have not replaced police cars, we have not replaced police, we've not replaced fire. We've cut recreation programs. We have done an awful lot. The key to me is if we don't do this, we're going to have to raise taxes. And when we talk about raising taxes, we're talking about raising taxes not only on the people, but we're talking about the restaurants, we're talking about the hotels, we're talking about some of the little companies that are not going to make it because they're barely making it right now. But it's gonna affect, I think, some of these people as well. We're gonna have to cut more police cars. We're gonna not have to replace people. We're gonna have to take a serious look at making trash maybe one day a week.
Oh, no.
Which we've talked about that before. And, you know, these are the things that make College Park, you know, trash twice a week, having people out on the street. We need to have more police. We need to have more visibility. So I don't want to give back any of that. To me, a key is what Ed has worked out, that we can pay back when we sell property at 6 West. We can pay down the debt and no prepayment penalties. So, you know, if you pay it back in 5 years, Ed, you're the math person here. If we pay it back in 5 years, how much does the whole deal cost us? Does it?
If you pay it all back, it wind up making you money, because we're actually lowering the interest rate on some of the old versus the new. We're actually lowering the interest rate.
Now, I don't think that'll happen, but you know, again, that's a key to pay back when we sell some of this VITA property, to use some of the money that we pay back to pay back some of this debt. But I hate debt. I don't like payments, but I don't see any other option that we have right now if we want to keep the city that we know and that we love. I mean, we can get down to bare bones, and we can try to fight through all this, and maybe we would come out of this. But you know, our police need help, our fire we just need to get the city running. And Mercedes has done a fantastic job sitting in as interim city manager and working with all the departments and cutting all the departments and looking at ways to come up with money. So hats off to her for what she's done as well. But I just don't see any way out of it as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I went along with it. And that's my take on it.
Thank you, Councilman Allen. Councilman Taylor, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, I think Councilman Allen and Councilman Clay summed it up pretty well. I think we all voted, you know, the way we voted because we didn't want to raise taxes. And we was in a situation. We had a problem. Ed and his teams kind of saw the problem. Well, it pretty much was a no-brainer once we got down to how the savings was going to be, you know, and neither one of us voted against it. So I think it was a great deal. You know, we got to move this city forward. That's the only how we're going to be able to do it without doing the increase on the citizens.
Thank you. Mayor Motley Broom.
Thank you. I agree with all three of my colleagues in that we have been immersed in this for quite a while. And let me apologize to the VITA board for not wrapping you into this process sooner, because I don't think it's never a good feeling to get a ton of information that is complex, that is important, that deserves careful consideration, and not feeling like you have enough time to digest it. And I've spoken to some of you independently about this, but certainly it should have happened sooner. And for the part that I played in that, you have my sincerest apologies. In regard to the deal itself, I did not vote on it because it was unanimous from council, and I only vote in the event of a tie. But we spent a lot of last year looking quarterly. I mean, we had an eye. Well, Mr. Wall would report to us quarterly in public about the state of our finances, but we were looking even closer as some of the rather dismal numbers came in, and trying to adjust as well as we could, while also trying to be considerate and taking into account that we're dealing with people here. We're dealing with people who have families. I know that Ms. Miller and I had multiple conversations about the fact that people are going to have to get laid off at the GICC, and the timing of that, and the impact not only on them, but their community, our community. We have to balance a lot of things as we take these decisions into account. One of the things that is rather important that we don't necessarily think of every day is our credit rating. It's very important as we do work outside of College Park and how we are viewed by the broader financial community. And if we continue to dip into our general fund and don't have appropriate reserves, that could disproportionately impact our credit rating. So we need to have a full sense of the decisions that are being made. Councilman Allen was dead on about some of the sacrifices we have had to make. Police, they're not spending $1 million in capital improvements as a result of COVID-19 because we've had to move things around. There are countless other departments in our city that have had to make similar, very, very difficult choices. And none of these decisions are easy. And none of them are ones that any of us thought that we would necessarily be faced with at the time that we assumed our service. But the citizens have entrusted us with them. I think if the board needs more time, I don't have an issue with that. That we can do more education. We can have more conversations. I know there was a lot of information to digest even tonight, but I do believe that if this vote is taken, no matter when it's taken, that the BIDA board should feel assured of their vote and understand why that vote has been cast. So I never would want anyone to feel like they are voting on something that they don't understand. And this is a exceedingly complex topic because we are an exceedingly complex city. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the issue and look forward to working with everyone so we keep on moving our city forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'd like to open up the floor for any of our board members that may have any questions, concerns that you want to express, and then we will determine whether or not we're going to take a motion on the floor to move forward with this. Any questions, concerns? And as our mayor said, you know, this is also, we're giving everybody the opportunity to feel comfortable about what has been placed before us. I'm grateful for the extra days that we took. Like I said, when I looked at I was on vacation when I called this special call meeting for Friday. So I didn't even open up the email until later in the day on Thursday. So these last few days have been very, very beneficial. My understanding has increased, not by the day, but by the hour regarding this issue. And I do appreciate all of those persons who have helped with that understanding. And each of you, I won't name you, but you know who you are. So at this time, are there any questions or concerns?
I have some concerns.
Okay.
I think that we should be looking at all areas that we can cut costs. Okay, so I know that I've focused on some professional services, but it's not, with all due respect, Congressman Taylor or Allen rather, I don't think the city needs 2 days a week of garbage pickup, nor do I think that we need to have a separate guy that walks down the driveway to pull up a trash can. City of Atlanta doesn't offer that. And so I think there's a lot of places where we could cut costs. And what has gotten us into this situation is poor financial management. I mean, we're in this huge amount of debt because we opted to build things that we couldn't afford. And so I'm not in favor of this. I think that I don't think we're seeing the full picture at all. We're just being shown one snapshot. Here's your debt. And we don't understand where revenue comes from. We don't understand other places, how we could handle this. We're just being told we have to restructure this so that we don't hurt the people. Well, 5 years down the road, when it goes up to 13 million from 9 million, what are we going to say then? Oh, it's better because car rental taxes. What if there's another situation? We need to practice good financial stewardship right now.
Thank you.
Okay,
Eleanor.
I would like to make a comment. I've lived here in College Park for 36 plus years. And I have totally enjoyed the services that we have received since I've been here in the city. Now, I realize that we have increased costs for sanitation service as well as utilities. However, I would hate to have to increase property taxes on the residents as well. So, Madam Chair, I'm going to move that we do what we need to do to save our city.
And that would be?
For the Madam Chair to sign this document that's needed.
All right. Will you have anyone that will second that motion?
I second it.
Okay, so we had 2 seconds. Those in favor, and I think with this one, we want to actually raise our hands so we can actually see who's. So those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay. Those opposed? Demetrius, are you opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, wait a minute.
Okay, I was saying you raised, okay.
No, I forgot I had this thing up and I'm trying to get it down.
Those opposed can say that they're opposed. I think everyone else has said, okay.
I'm opposed.
All righty. Well, the ayes have it. And so with that being said, we are going to move forward with the restructuring and all of the contracts that are in place that are involved in this restructuring. And so there are actually no changes that's going to be made, and the chair will be authorized to sign. Yes, Dr. Anita. I know she says don't say doctor. I tried. You're muted. Anita, we can't hear you.
That's probably a good thing. Having voted in favor of this, I certainly acknowledge the opposing view. And, you know, there's my philosophy professor told me in college, there's never only 2 solutions to a problem. And I think that her points are well taken. And I'm sure that as responsible as our council and we will also consider moving forward some of the things that were suggested as longer term and more permanent solutions, so that we have both an immediate solution but also a longer term perspective on ways to, we are a unique city and we do rely a lot on our occupancy tax and all of those things. But she makes a good point about other ways of cutting costs without decreasing the quality of life dramatically in the city. So I would encourage us to just stay on guard and move forward smartly with alternate solutions to some of the problems that she's brought up. And I'm sure others will have on their plates as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree.
Demetrius, okay, yeah. And we know that we're not perfect, but we're striving. And this was actually, we just do what we feel that we need to do at this time to continue in the manner that we are at. We were going to continue to get better and better and gooder. So, with that, we do have an announcement from Tasha. Tasha, would you like to share? Oh, and before Tasha shares her announcement, I got good news today from the Skyhawks. I don't know if Mercedes probably knew it before me, I'm sure, that the Skyhawks, as early as the end of October, beginning of November, will be playing again at the arena. And so not only do we have our dream, but we have the Skyhawks back. And we're going to see some of that revenue that was coming in at the end of 2019 happening again this year. So the outlook is looking better. So just excited about that. So Tasha, share your news.
Sure, thank you. We were able to share this internally, but it was announced for national announcement today that City of College Park was selected as a participant with the VAD, Vacant, Absentee, and Dilapidated Challenge with the National League of Cities. We are one of 12 cities amongst 4 states, ranging from Texas, Illinois, Kentucky, and Georgia. And we were selected in Georgia along with City of South Fulton as well as Perry to attend the University of Texas in Austin for a 4-day dialogue to review and really train local leaders and stakeholders on how to combat vacant properties in our area. So that was announced nationally today, and I just wanted to place that information out there.
Oh, good.
Good news.
That is great news.
Congratulations.
Now, is there a way that Biden can get involved in,
Okay, right.
you know, some of these local leaders to get trained?
You know, we're always looking
Talk to
for
you later.
opportunities to train. So we will be coming back and training you.
Okay, you're going to try. Okay, so we're just going to get it on your coattail. Okay, we'll get it then. That's really great news. There's so many great things happening in College Park, you know, in the midst of this crazy situations that we're having in the world. It's good to be able to be home and to be proud of where you live and the people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I want to thank all of you for your attendance at this meeting today. I want to thank all of you that have worked so hard on trying to, you know, create a better situation, get us out of some of the situations that we're in. It's my hope that we are even more diligent as we continue to stay out of this and not have to do a restructuring again in the next couple of years. But thank you again. Have a great evening and good night.
Thank you.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Good evening,
Night.
everybody.